Hi guys, new yarn directory entry today, and this time I'm pairing it with a fun video that you can watch to talk about each of the yarns and give you some insight into what I love about them, what they're comparable to, and what you might use them for.
So the first yarn of the core four, which are Homestead, Meadow, Kindred, and Flock. I'm going to go through those first, and then I'm going to talk about one of the adjacent Caretaker lines that they were so kind to send me a sample of. This Caretaker is Caretaker Begin. I do not have a sample of the other Caretaker yarns, but I'm sure they're just as lovely, so I'm looking forward to talking about this one as well. We're going to start up here with Homestead. Homestead is probably one of my favorite ones in the line. You guys know I'm a sucker for this green, and they did a great job picking a green that fits for me. And Homestead is 100% domestic Western wool. So what it is actually a blend of 70% Fine Merino. This is going to be sourced mostly in Colorado or in the Western United States. And then 30% long wool, which I believe is also sourced mostly in the Western US. They're very, very passionate at High Country Wool about supporting their region and their region's fiber production and fiber shed as a larger idea. So this is a fantastic blend. It does not feel scratchy at all. If you've ever felt a long wool blend, you may be worried that it would be a little bit scratchy, but this is super soft. I am planning on some kind of next to skin accessory for this and hopefully a garment in the future. Next up, we have Meadow, which is a very nice bouncy fingering weight. This is a 90% Fine Merino, 10% Shetland, again, all domestically sourced fiber on that, so that is US grown Shetland. And it has this really nice kind of twisty ply that gives it a lot of energy and bounce. Meadow is a great shawl, wrap, rectangular scarf kind of yarn. I think it would make for wonderful fingerless mitts or even sweaters. It's probably gonna pill a little bit just because of that super fine softness on it, but it might age beautifully as well. The next in the line is one that I'm really feeling like is the best new garment yarn I've seen this year. This is Kindred, and it's been around a while. Before it was Kindred under High Country Wool. Nicole Clark, who is one half of High Country Wool, actually had this yarn as her initial collaboration between Nicole and Jennifer Guire. And the Kindred line was previously known as Woolens and was naturally dyed in Nicole's Hue Loco brand. But in High Country Wool, it takes the form of Kindred, and it's dyed in a palette that's reminiscent of naturally dyed yarns. So Nicole has really solved the problem of scale with natural dyes, which is a huge challenge for a lot of natural dyers, by coming up with these really soft, beautiful colors that are very evocative of naturally dyed, botanically dyed colors. This 2-ply is 80% Fine Merino. Again, there's that Colorado Merino that forms the base of this brand, and then 10% Rommeldale and 10% BFL. So that BFL is adding some shine. The Rommeldale is adding a little bit of structure. If you haven't used Rommeldale before, it's also known as CVM, which is how a lot of spinners encounter it. It's how I have first encountered it. It's just a very high character wool. It has a lot of fluff to it. It's got some crispiness to it, but not in a scratchy way. And it's definitely lending some major bounce and attitude to Kindred. The next yarn and the last of the 4 core yarns is Flock. This is 100% domestic Western wool. This is 100% Colorado wool. This is the DK weight. It also comes in a sock and a worsted weight. This is a pretty standard 2-ply merino, but it is so soft. It just has a great hand. Just again, a lot of character in that Western merino. Then we've got Caretaker, which is one of the special edition lines. There's several Caretaker lines, and these are kind of small batch specialty yarns. They might be made in collaboration with smaller farms or ranches. They're not available in the quantity that the 4 core yarns are going to be available in, and my understanding is that some of them, when they're gone, they will be gone. So the team at High Country Wool was so generous, and they actually sent me 3 skeins so that you guys could see really what that yarn looks like. You can see the shine on that. That has beautiful texture. and you can see the ply, especially on these lighter colors, very, very clearly. The darker charcoal has a nice heathery look. So let's talk about some yarns that are maybe similar to some of the high country wool lines, but different in their own way. First, I'm going to talk about Caretaker. This Caretaker is 40% Romeldale, 30% Lincoln, 30% Wensleydale. So these are all kind of longer wools. It's a light worsted weight. The closest thing that I could find in my stash was this skein of Thelma and Louise. And honestly, they aren't all that similar. I hope that the differences really show up on camera here, but Thelma and Louise has a much tighter twist. It's a little bit bouncier. The Caretaker really has a lot of drape and luster and shine. Even in shine, I feel like the Caretaker is winning out. It's a little more pure white at the base versus the sort of soft grays of the Thelma and Louise. They're both special yarns, but definitely totally different. So not at all a comparison. I would say this is a fairly unique yarn on the market if you're looking to try something new. All right, so let's talk flock. I didn't really have too much like flock in my existing stash. I do know that there are probably some yarns out there that have a similar structure. I've seen some very bouncy merino yarns available, but I didn't have anything like it. So I would say the closest approximation might be Stonewall Cormo, which has a very similar kind of visual structure. But flock is just something fun to try. If you like a super soft yarn, I would definitely give this one a shot. And again, here it is in this really pretty red color. In the comments on the video, I'll include all the color names. All right, I had nothing like Kindred at all. This is a really special yarn. So again, if you're looking to try something new, the Kindred is a great choice. And then let's talk about Meadow. So I did have some yarns that reminded me of Meadow, or that Meadow reminded me of. One being this Backyard Fibers 100% US wool sock yarn. It's called So Soft Fingering. It's 100% merino. This is a Shetland blend, so they're actually quite different. Just having that Shetland edition is going to make it different. This one's plied a little bit tighter, but it does have that like really, really bouncy, high energy ply structure. Another yarn that has kind of a similar feel is Catskill Merino. This yarn is a little slubbier, a little bit more thick and thin. I think that the Shetland evens this blend out a little better for Meadow. And again, this is Cormo, so it doesn't have that Shetland edition. And the last one that I felt like was similar at all is a very old skein of Knitted Wit. I don't think that she even offers this base anymore, but this one was called Welterweight Rambouillet, and it's again 100% wool with this really, really round, and obviously this is 100% wool, but this is single breed, whereas this has that Shetland edition, and I'm amazed by how much that Shetland really adds a sheen to the Meadow. All right, last comparison. Let's talk Homestead. So Homestead is a very special yarn. I didn't really have too much that was like it. The closest that I had was this extremely small batch, vintage number 3 from Middlebrook Fiberworks. If you're not familiar with Anne Choi's work, her sheep are Shetland CVM alpaca. Well, she blends it with alpaca and silk, and it's just such a nice blend. I'm not sure if all the vintages have the exact same blend. She's working on a new vintage right now. I'm hoping to get my hands on a skein of that when it comes out. And the Homestead is a blend of fine merino and long wool. So this has a slightly more rustic feel than the Middlebrook Fiberworks number 3, which is very squishy and soft. But this feels like it would hold up a little bit better, and this should be pampered with something special close to skin, especially since it's such a small batch yarn, and this one we're able to get in a little more quantity. So Homestead for your garments, and this gorgeous Middlebrook Fiberworks will be reserved for some kind of special accessory. In conclusion, I'm so excited about this brand new to market yarn line. I think that you guys are probably just as excited as I am, and you'll be even more excited if you can get your hands on some of this yarn. I am including it in the yarn directory with all the details, and there's a blog post related to it, so you can read more about how High Country Wool got started and what makes this brand special. Thanks for joining me for this little yarn directory entry, and I'll see you guys again soon. Thanks for joining me for this yarn directory introduction video for High Country Wools. I hope that you enjoyed it and that you learned something or found a new yarn to be excited about. You'll find more entries and eventually more videos on the yarn directory within my website, www.hannahtheisen.com, or you can find the yarn directory entries through Instagram, where I am Hannah Bell Knits. See you around.